Welcome back to the world of immunity. We have finished the innate immunity and we are moving on to the acquired immunity. Let's see what is acquired immunity. Now, as we came across the innate immunity is nothing but it is the inborn immunity that we get from the time of our birth. Acquired immunity is that type of immunity that we get it after our birth, okay, when we are exposed to the environmental conditions. Now, as I have informed you, our environment is not free from the pathogens, is not free from the diseases. It is having lot of microbes in the nature, and those microbes will be entering into our body constantly. As a result, because of our body defense mechanism, we are not getting diseased so easily. Now, acquired immunity is nothing but it is the immunity that is obtained after the birth. So, it is obtained after the birth. Is obtained after the birth when we are exposed to potentially harmful environment. The immunity that is obtained by the body when we get exposed to the environment, when we get exposed to the pathogens, such type of immunity is said to be acquired immunity. And in the acquired immunity, we are going to study two different types of lymphocytes, that is B lymphocytes as well as T lymphocytes, which forms the third line of body defense. Okay, now here acquired immunity, it forms the third line of body defense. Now, this acquired immunity, we also call it as it is a specific immunity. It forms the specific body defense. So, here it forms the specific body defense. Okay, now look at the term that we are going to use here. Innate immunity, we used to call what? Innate immunity, we used to call it as non-specific body defense, and here acquired immunity we call it as a specific body defense. Okay, it forms a specific body defense. That means this type of immunity is very particular, very peculiar about a particular type of pathogen. Okay, so it can encounter a very particular type of pathogen that invades our body, that infects our body. Okay, so this is regarding the basics of the acquired immunity. Now, when the pathogen enters into our body for the first time, our body will generate an immune system where we call it as a primary response. That means our body has to respond. That means for every action there will be a reaction. Similarly, our body will show a response where we call it as a primary response. Then the question comes, what is the primary response? Okay, when an antigen or pathogen, both are same only, meaning is same. A pathogen enters into the body for the first time, then the body shows primary immune response. then our body will show the primary immune response, and this type of primary immune response will be of low intensity. That means after entering the antigens, antigens are nothing but pathogens, or we also call them as foreign bodies. Okay, so there is difference in between antigens and antibodies. Antigens are the foreign substances or pathogens that invades our body and causes the disease. Antibodies are the proteins that are produced against the antigens in our body. Okay, that is the basic difference. Now, when an antigen or a pathogen enters into our body for the first time, then our body will generate a primary immune response which is of low intensity. That means our body has never came across such type of pathogen as the present day pathogen. Okay, so this COVID-19 virus, it has invaded our body and it has went also. So for most of them, they don't know whether the virus has came or no, because they were asymptomatic in condition. So that's why when the antigen enters into our body, initially there are no antibodies where they can identify and kill them. When this antigen enters, then our body will generate these new antibodies. The purpose of vaccination is also same. We are taking vaccination to generate our immune system, to produce our antibodies, so that our antibodies can kill a particular type of pathogen. Because of that, we are taking all this. Okay, Covaxin, Covishield, Sputnik. So whatever the vaccines are there, we are taking it against the virus only. That means they can fight against such type of viruses. Okay, either it is the COVID-19 or the mutant variety, where we also call it as Delta plus virus. Okay, so with these mutations also, the vaccines are very effective against these different types of pathogen, and the pathogen is nothing but the virus, present day situation, okay, as we are facing. Now initially, suppose if we are not vaccinated, because even vaccine also shows the primary response. That primary response is nothing but it goes on producing antibodies. When it goes on producing antibodies, then ultimately initially we feel feverish, we get fever, body ache, all the symptoms are shown because our body is generating that immune system. That means our defense mechanism is becoming more and more active. It's becoming more and more active. Okay, so that it can resist various types of pathogens. Now this is the primary immune response. Then one more is there, secondary immune response. Suppose if the same pathogen invades our body for the next time, second time or third time, irrespective of that, then our body will generate an immune response which is called as secondary immune response, where it is having high intensity. Its intensity is very high, its response is very high because their numbers are more. Okay, how it is? It is just like the trained and untrained soldiers. The trained soldiers are fast, active, clever enough to kill the enemies, but untrained, they don't know some of the tricks, tactics. Okay, how to escape, how to kill, how to tackle, all these things. Okay, so that's why if the antigen enters into our body for the first time, then the immune response shown by our body is primary immune response. If the antigen invades our body for the second time, our body will generate secondary immune response, which is of great intensity, high intensity, powerful, potential to kill the pathogens. Okay, so this is the basic part of the acquired immunity. And remember, acquired immunity, this is not present in our body by birth, but after the birth, when the pathogen enters. If a virus enters, antibodies are produced against it. If a bacteria enters, antibodies are produced against it. If a protozoan parasite enters, antibodies are produced against it. If any of the fungus enters, antibodies are produced against this. Look at this, based on the different types of the pathogens. Now till now, I think more than hundreds of pathogens have entered into our body. Okay, even for you also hundreds of pathogens have entered into our body, but you are safe, you are well, because your immune system is working. And remember, if our immune system does not work, we cannot survive. We cannot survive after the birth. Within few years or within few months, chance of death is there. Okay, so there is a type of disease also which you are going to study in the I think you might have studied or you will study in the part of the genetics. okay, where it is regarding adenosine deficiency, and in the biotechnology we are dealing with the entire part of this ADA disease, adenosine deaminase. Okay, it is a gene disorder. Okay, so that is a different thing because it is a birth defect, but we all are normal, so normal persons will be having immunity and we get the acquired immunity also. So right now you are having the innate immunity also, acquired immunity also, but we don't know what type of pathogens are generated in the nature because new organisms are forming, so mutant varieties are coming. Okay, we don't know in future again what will come. Okay, so we cannot predict, right? So this is acquired immunity. Now this acquired immunity, it includes B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. So let us go into the detail. So it includes B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. Okay, what are these B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes? Let us look at these in detail account. Okay, so let us go to the title of B lymphocytes first. Now as the name says, B lymphocytes meaning where they are produced, T lymphocytes where they are produced, where do they get matured. Okay, so these lymphocytes are nothing but they are the type of WBC cells where we call them as the body defense mechanism. Now these B lymphocytes, they are produced and matured in bone marrow. As we know, bone marrow is the site of production of blood, RBC, WBC, platelets. Mainly we call them as formed elements. Okay, so they are produced and matured in the bone marrow itself. So based on the location of its maturation, it has got the name as B lymphocytes. B meaning bone marrow lymphocytes. Okay, then these B lymphocytes will produce antibodies, mainly two different types of cells called as B cells and memory cells. So they produce B cells and memory cells. They produce B cells as well as memory cells. Now these B cells we also call them as antibodies. They are nothing but they are antibodies. Later we will look at the structure of the antibody. Okay, now B cells we call them as antibodies. Okay, now B lymphocytes, they are produced as well as matured in the bone marrow, and in turn these B cells will produce two different types. One is antibody cells where we call them as B cells, and second one is the memory cells. Memory cells are also important here because they are going to remember the type of the pathogen that has invaded the human body. Okay, so that's why the name memory cells. Now where are B lymphocytes present? B lymphocytes or these antibodies will be flowing in the fluid of the blood. That means they are flowing in the blood. We call this blood or fluid as a humor, and such type of immunity is said to be humoral immunity. That means B lymphocytes are responsible for humoral immunity. Humoral meaning humor-like immunity. Humor refers to the body fluids. This is again an objective question. Okay, which lymphocytes form the humoral immunity? B lymphocytes form the humoral immunity, or they are responsible for the humoral immunity, because humor refers to body fluids where it will be flowing in our body. Okay, so that's why B lymphocytes are responsible for what type of immunity? Humoral immunity. Okay, so they will attack the antigens directly and they will kill them. That is why the B cells are said to be antibodies. They directly produce the antibodies where they will counteract with these pathogens and they are going to kill it. Okay. So, this is regarding B lymphocytes. Let us go to the next one. Next one is a T lymphocyte. Okay, so this is the first one, this is the second one, T lymphocytes. Now, let us study hand in hand only. So, where the T lymphocytes are produced and where they are matured. Now, T lymphocytes, they are produced in the bone marrow, especially the femur bone. Longest bone in the human body is the femur bone, where we also call it as thigh bone. Now, T lymphocytes are produced in bone marrow, and where do they mature? Their maturation site is different, that is thymus. Now, here they are produced in bone marrow and matures in thymus gland. And matures in thymus gland. Thymus is a gland which is present above the heart. It is a gland present above the heart. The size of the thymus gland, initially at the time of birth it will be large, then in the adults it will be the size of a pea. One vatani kalast size irtada. Okay, that is a T lymphocyte. The name T lymphocyte, it has got the name as T lymphocyte. This is because look at the site of maturation. It is produced in bone marrow. That means B cells, T cells, they are produced. Production end is same only. Which what is that production end? Production end is bone marrow. But look at their maturation site. B lymphocytes matures in the bone marrow itself, and T lymphocytes matures in the thymus gland with the help of a hormone called as thymosins, where you have studied in PUC 1. With the help of the hormone called as a thymosins. Thymosins are the hormones that are responsible for maturation of T lymphocytes. They are involved in maturation of the T lymphocytes. Hence the name T. Why they have got the name as T? Because they are site of maturation. Matured antibodies can only recognize the pathogen. Immatured antibodies cannot recognize or identify the pathogen. Be specific here. Immatured antibodies cannot identify the pathogen. Only matured antibodies will kill and attack the pathogens, antigens, foreign bodies. Okay. Then what about the T lymphocyte and what type of immunity it is having? T lymphocytes does not directly attack the antigens. In turn, they are going to produce different types of cells, and through those different types of cells it is going to bring its immunity. Then what are those different types of cells? It is not given in the NCERT, but I am going to tell you those different types of cells. So, these cells includes killer T cells, then suppressor T cells are there, memory cells are there, helper T cells are there. Helper T cells, suppressor T cells, or simply we call them as suppressor cells, and memory cells. So, count their number, how many types are there? T lymphocytes will produce 4 different types of cells. By all the cells, it is going to take its immunity. Okay. Then, what is the function of all the 4 different types of cells? Now, look at their names. As the name says, killer T cells. What is the function of the killer T cells? As the name says, killer T cells are mainly involved in killing up of the pathogens. It is involved in the killing up of the pathogens. ಯಾವಾಗೂ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಯಾಥೋಜನ್ ಬಂತಂತಂದ್ರೆ it will just go and kill it. Hence the name killer T cell. Okay, so always ready with the bullet. Okay, then helper T cell. The role of helper T cell is most important, and out of all the cells, the highest number of cells are helper T cells only. It's a helper T cells, and the role of helper T cell is more. Helper T cells ಹೆಂಗಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ರಾಜನ ಆಸ್ಥಾನ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಮಂತ್ರಿ ಇದ್ದಂಗೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಮಂತ್ರಿ ಬುದ್ಧಿವಂತ. ಓಕೆ, ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನೋಡ್ರಿ. Helper T cell will help the killer T cell in identifying the pathogen. ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಯಾರಿಗೆ? ಕಿಲ್ಲರ್ T cellಗೆ. ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತದ? ವೆನ್ ಕಿಲ್ಲರ್ T cells kills ಎ ಪ್ಯಾಥೋಜನ್, ಒಂದು ಪ್ಯಾಥೋಜನ್ ಕಿಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೈತಿ. ಮತ್ತು ಯಾವುದೋ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಅವಾಗ ಹೆಲ್ಪರ್ T cell ಹೇಳ್ತೈತಿ, ಲುಕ್ ದೇರ್, ಒನ್ ಮೋರ್ ಪ್ಯಾಥೋಜನ್ ಇಸ್ ದೇರ್, ಕಿಲ್ಲರ್ T cell will go there, it will kill. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡು, ಇಲ್ಲೊಂದು ಪ್ಯಾಥೋಜನ್ ಬಂದತ್ತ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತದೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪರ್ T cell. ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದ? Helper T cell is going to help the killer T cells in identifying the pathogens and in killing them. Okay, look at its role. This guide madadatada. Okay, so that's why its role is most important. Then suppressor T cells, as the name said, suppress, stops. Okay, to whom it will stop? It will suppress killer T cells. Killer T cell ni ಯಾವಾಗ ಸಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದತ್ತಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಯಾಥೋಜನ್ ಡೆತ್ ಆದದ್ದು ಕಿಲ್ಲರ್ T cells ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಂಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ರೆಡಿ ಟು ಫೈರ್, ಗನ್ ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಓಡಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತೈತಿ. ಅವಾಗ ಸಪ್ರೆಸರ್ T cell ಬಂದು ಹೇಳ್ತದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸತ್ತು ಸುಮ್ಕೊಂಡಿನ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೈತಿ. ಓಕೆ, ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ನೇಮ್, ಹೆನ್ಸ್ ದ ನೇಮ್ ಸಪ್ರೆಸರ್ T cells. It suppresses killer T cells when the pathogens are under control. Okay, then memory cells. Role of memory cell is also most important, because memory cells, it will keep in memory the type of antigen that has invaded our body. ಇದನ್ನು ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಬಾಡಿದಾಗ ಫೋಟೋಗ್ರಾಫರ್ ಇದ್ದಂಗೆ. ಯಾವ್ದಾರ ಒಂದು ಎನಿಮಿ ಬತ್ತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದೊಂದು ಫೋಟೋ ತಗೊಂಡು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೈತಿ. ಯಾಕೆ ಬೇಕು? ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅದೇ ಸೇಮ್ ಎನಿಮಿ ಬತ್ತಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಫೋಟೋ ಕಾಪಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೈತಿ? ಕಿಲ್ಲರ್ T cell ತೋರಿಸತ್ತೆ, ಇವ ನೋಡಿ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಬಂದಾವ ಅಂತಂದು. ಅವಾಗ ಕಿಲ್ಲರ್ T cell ಏನು ಮಾಡತ್ತೆ? ಗೋಸ್, ಕಿಲ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, this is how our T lymphocyte gets the immunity by production of all the 4 different types of cells, and such type of immunity is termed as what? Cell mediated immunity. So the immunity produced by this. Okay, so such type. Now here the point we have taken, we are taking the same contrasting point here. So here T lymphocytes are responsible for cell mediated immunity. They are responsible for cell mediated immunity. Remember this is the most important thing here. Now, which lymphocytes are responsible for humoral immunity? Yes, it is the B lymphocytes. And which lymphocytes are responsible for cell mediated immunity? Yes, it is the T lymphocytes. And hence the difference between B lymphocytes as well as the T lymphocytes can be asked for a short notes type of question, and separately they will be asked for a 3 mark separately, B lymphocytes as well as T lymphocyte. Okay, now these two together, B lymphocytes, T lymphocytes, these two together forms the third line of body defense. Okay, so they form the third line of body defense, and this is the last line of body defense, and it is the strongest force that is present in our body against the pathogen. And this immune system is going to definitely work because they are produced against a particular type of pathogen. These are targeted. That means they will target a particular type of a virus or a particular type of bacteria, where we can kill these pathogens and we get resistance against all these diseases. So such type are called as immune system or immunity, and in the immunity you are at the part of acquired immunity. Okay, so with this acquired immunity, almost we are at the next part where we are going to study the structure of an antibody. and regarding the structure of an antibody, we will study it in our coming class. Okay. So, with this let us end up the class. Thank you.